It all started when I signed out of university. Graduating from a Nigerian federal university is no small feat, I tell you. I was affected by ASU strikes and the pandemic. What was supposed to be a 4-year course turned into almost 6 years. But I made it out with a degree to show for it. A few months after graduation, I registered for NYSC and received my call-up letter with mixed feelings. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting, based on connection things. But turns out my connection didn't work at all. So I boarded a vehicle to NYSC orientation camp in Nkwere, Obinze, Imo State. On getting to camp, security searched me like a thief. No contraband allowed. Then I was assigned a hostel and a room. I had arrived early, so I got to pick a bed of my choice, as the room was empty. I chose one close to the window, in case it got too hot, and it had a little private corner where I could stash my things. While I was dressing my bed and trying to figure out my mosquito net, Constance walked in. She looked just as unsure and apprehensive as I was about this whole NYSC thing. We exchanged greetings, and that's how I met my first friend in camp. After dressing our beds, we headed to the multipurpose hall for registration. Now this part is super important because one little mistake in the arrangement of your names or a lost document could send you packing from the orientation camp. NYSC doesn't play around. When it was my turn to present my document, the woman screening me said my certificate looked fake, too poor in quality. She asked me to sit aside while she verified with my school if I was indeed a graduate or a fraud. At that moment, all I heard in my mind was, village people. The suspense was real. Even if I was innocent, I still wondered if I was a fraud. While I waited, Constance went ahead with her registration and we got separated in the crowd. Eventually, they confirmed I was a graduate, and I proceeded with my registration. I got my code number, opened a bank account, and collected my kits and uniforms. But it was a very long and unnecessary process. NYSC will teach you the art of queuing. While I was waiting, some soldiers burst into the multipurpose hall, looking all majestic and authoritative, and a man that I will soon come to know as RSM said, "All those on white and white, move to the parade ground immediately." I was like, "Now so una dey do for here?" All the people I had gotten information all told me, "Don't worry, the first day of camp is for registration only. They won't stress you with marching." I wasn't in white and white yet, so I hid and distanced myself from my kids. After the soldiers had moved on to the parade ground, I took my kids and walked to the hostel, feeling so good with myself. But little did I know, I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. On getting to the hostel, I met two fierce-looking female soldiers who saw me with my kids, all in hand, looking so guilty, and I was immediately ordered to change into my uniform and move to the parade ground. My mouth opened in shock. I could not speak. My plan to avoid the parade had failed. I immediately changed into my kits and moved to the parade ground to avoid any unnecessary problem. I strode leisurely to the parade ground. The reality of where I was had not yet sunk in, but it would very soon. On sighting me, a soldier immediately backed others at me, saying, "Otondo, do you think this is your father's compound? My friend, will you double up?" "Double up," I said. I immediately took to my heels. It was the first time ever hearing the words double up, and I was genuinely confused. I almost asked him, what is the meaning of double up? But I knew that if I did, I probably would have been the very first corps member to be punished in Batch B Stream 1. I ran to join others who were already receiving instructions in the art of left and right, forward march, about turn, and I joined the line. We were instructed for 2 hours without break. I was thirsty, I was sweaty, and I was hungry. I had only had breakfast before leaving for my journey, and now here I was participating in parade on the very first day of camp. My once white shoes now had a reddish-brown color, a distinct trait about the color of the soil in Imo State. I marched so well that I was picked to join the quarter guard, and we immediately started receiving instructions separately from others. Our commander in charge of the quarter guard had told us, I have marked each and every one of your faces. If you run, I will fish you out." When it was 6 p.m., the bugle was blown for all of us to stand at attention, for Nigeria to go to sleep, as they would put it. It simply meant the Nigerian flag would be flown at half-mast to signify the end of the day. We immediately dismissed the parade after that, and I went back to my hostel feeling so exhausted to rest my legs and my brain. On getting to the hostel, I found a once empty room filled with people that I did not know, all inspecting their kits, and I decided to do so. I discovered that my NYSC uniform was made for someone 3 times my size, and even my boots did not fit. This was a real problem, because the swearing-in ceremony was in 3 days. I immediately took them to the famous Mami Market for amendment. On getting to Mami Market, the place was packed and filled with vendors, all trying to get each and every corps member's attention, calling out, "Corper, Corper, I have what you want, come to my stand." I quickly located the tailor section, of which I found one, and I gave her my uniform for amendment. She took one look at it, and with a straight face she told me, "Your money na 2.5. I was shocked at the sheer audacity. This was highway robbery. I quickly realized that the price of things in Mami Market was 5 times the price outside of camp. I proceeded to bargain with her, and we agreed on a fixed price. Not long after, an announcement was made for food. I grabbed my meal card and went to the serving area, where I found another long queue to collect my evening meal. NYSC and queue na 5 and 6. Only to be served a meal that was a culinary crime against humanity. 2 pieces of yam and water disguised as stew, with a cube of fried fish. I finally understood the meaning of NYSC. By this time, I had reconnected with Constance, and we decided to retire for the night, but not before taking a shower. We discovered this the hard way when we entered the wrong bathroom, and the woman inside told us plainly, it is not for coppers. We were both shocked at the state of the toilet facilities that were meant for coppers. We were left with no choice but to choose between the outhouse and the bush. And you guessed it right, we chose the bush. Because even the bush is better than the outhouse that looks like you could catch an infection from just looking at it. And that was just day 1 of NYSC camp. With 20 more days to go, I couldn't help but wonder what awaited me in the coming days.